Why you can feel hostility before anyone says a word. Imagine walking into a room. Nobody says anything rude. Nobody argues with you. Nobody openly rejects you. In fact, everyone seems perfectly polite. And yet, something feels wrong. One person smiles, but the smile disappears a little too quickly. Someone who usually greets you suddenly looks away. A conversation pauses for half a second when you walk in. Nothing obvious has happened, but deep inside, you feel it. There is hostility here. Have you ever wondered why? Is it anxiety? Are you imagining things? Or is your brain noticing something that your conscious mind hasn't explained yet?
Today, we're going to explore one of the oldest survival systems in the human mind.
And by the end of this video, you'll also learn something even more important: what to do after you notice hostility. Because recognizing hostility is only half the story. Living with it is the real challenge. Your brain notices patterns before your mind notices reasons. Most people believe they think first and feel second. In reality, the opposite often happens. Your brain continuously scans the people around you. Eye movements, facial muscles, voice pitch, body orientation, speaking speed. Who receives attention? Who gets interrupted? Who gets ignored? Individually, none of these signals means very much, but together, they create patterns. Your conscious mind cannot process thousands of social signals every second. Your subconscious can. Long before you consciously think something feels wrong, your brain has already reached that conclusion. This is why hostility often feels like intuition. You're not seeing one clue. You're sensing the result of hundreds of tiny clues. Evolution made us experts at detecting danger. Thousands of years ago, failing to notice danger could mean death. The people who survived weren't necessarily the strongest. They were the ones who noticed subtle changes earliest: a strange silence, an unusual movement, a different facial expression, a slight change in group behavior. Your ancestors survived because they detected threats before they became obvious. Your brain still uses the same operating system today. The modern office may have replaced the ancient forest, but your nervous system doesn't know that. To your brain, social rejection once meant losing the protection of the tribe, and losing the tribe often meant dying alone. That is why social hostility feels disproportionately painful. Your biology still treats exclusion as a survival problem. But here's what most people misunderstand. Feeling hostility does not automatically mean someone hates you. Your brain is a prediction machine. It constantly asks one question: what is most likely happening? Predictions are useful. Predictions are not always accurate. If you've experienced betrayal, bullying, or rejection before, your prediction system becomes more sensitive. Sometimes that's wisdom. Sometimes it's trauma. The challenge is learning the difference. A mature mind never ignores intuition, but it also never worships it. Intuition is evidence. It is not proof. Now let's go deeper. Why does hostility exist at all? Most people imagine that hostility is caused by bad people. History suggests otherwise. Hostility is not an exception to human nature. It is part of it. Human beings evolved in small groups, competing for limited resources. Status mattered. Attention mattered. Food mattered. Mates mattered. Reputation mattered. Whenever resources are limited, comparison naturally appears. Where comparison appears, competition follows. And where competition exists, hostility quietly waits in the background. Not because humans are evil, because humans are human. Civilization didn't remove hostility. It taught us to hide it. Imagine two people living 10,000 years ago. One disliked the other. The conflict was obvious. Today, we rarely express hostility directly. We smile. We stay polite. We congratulate people we secretly envy. We say, "I'm so happy for you," while hoping they don't become more successful than we are. Civilized society rewards emotional control. But emotional control is not emotional elimination. The emotion still exists. It simply wears better clothes. This is why modern hostility is often difficult to identify. It hides inside politeness, inside silence, inside exclusion, inside delayed replies, inside forgotten invitations, inside compliments that somehow feel insulting. Civilization didn't eliminate hostility. It made hostility more sophisticated. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You also carry hostility. Everyone does. Perhaps not today, perhaps not toward everyone. But think carefully. Have you ever felt jealous? Have you ever secretly enjoyed seeing someone arrogant fail? Have you ever hoped another person's success would slow down because it made you uncomfortable? Those moments don't make you a bad person. They make you human. The danger begins when we believe hostility belongs only to other people. Self-awareness starts with recognizing that the same psychological machinery exists inside us. Once you understand that, other people's hostility becomes easier to understand. Not acceptable, but understandable. So, what should you do when you sense hostility? Many people spend years trying to eliminate it. They change jobs, change cities, change friends, change partners, yet hostility follows them everywhere. Why? Because no human community is completely free from competition, insecurity, or envy. If you wait for a world without hostility, you'll spend your whole life waiting. The better goal is emotional stability. Notice hostility. Accept that it exists. Decide whether it actually requires action. Sometimes it does. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, protect your boundaries. Leave if necessary. But many small signs of hostility don't deserve endless mental attention. Not every cold expression deserves 3 days of analysis. Not every delayed reply deserves a conspiracy. The strongest people don't ignore hostility. They simply refuse to organize their lives around it. There is another kind of freedom. Imagine walking into a room and sensing that someone dislikes you. In the past, you might have spent hours wondering why, trying to fix it, trying to become more likable, trying to earn approval. But eventually, you realize something profound. Not everyone has to like you. Some people will misunderstand you. Some people will compete with you. Some people will envy you. Some people simply won't connect with your personality. That is not a tragedy. That is statistical reality. The moment you stop demanding universal approval, hostility loses much of its power. Because your emotional stability no longer depends on someone else's opinion. Let me leave you with one final thought. Your ability to notice hostility is not a curse. It is part of your survival system. Treat it with respect, but don't let it become your master. Remember, hostility is information. It is not an emergency. Your intuition is an alarm. It is not a judge. And perhaps the greatest sign of psychological maturity is this: you can clearly see the darkness in human nature without becoming cynical. You recognize that every person carries both kindness and hostility, including yourself. Wisdom is not finding people without flaws. Wisdom is learning to live peacefully among imperfect human beings. Because the world has never been free of hostility, but it has always had room for people who refuse to let hostility define who they become. If this perspective challenged the way you think about human nature, consider subscribing. Because sometimes understanding people begins with understanding the parts of ourselves we'd rather not see.